Hey friends, just a part two of the methane gas problem I've been having in my home. So on part one, I share how the situation happened and what we did to that point. So I didn't hear the plunking for a couple of days, glugging. It's kind of like a glug glug glug. And I thought it was the toilet in the basement burbling. The plumbers told me that if there was that going on, that it was methane gas escaping into the house. So if you want to know the story behind that, check that video, part one. I think it's methane gas symptoms in the home or something like that, labeled on my channel, thesecretisgratitude.com, or the Secret is Gratitude YouTube channel. But I also have a post on it on my blog, thesecretisgratitude.com, where I show pictures of what they had in there, and I couldn't get a picture of the sponge that fell into the vent that was causing the blockage, part of the blockage, but the main part of the blockage. And so a couple days, like I think what happened is we moved when he put that tubing, a hook, I had him run so I could see the sponge in the sewer vent, and it was halfway down my house length. And then when he put in the hook, electrical snake, and dropped it down in there, it kind of bounced back up for a minute, and then he kind of forced it down, and that forced the sponge further down in the vent. But at that point, we couldn't see it. So what happened since then? So I did hear it glurging. I made the first video like a day or two after we put the snake down there. And when I did hear it, it sounded like it was further down in a tube. So I don't know if you've ever had like a long tube and somebody whacks on it. You can kind of hear it depending on where you are. It's like a longer sound. Where you, depending on where you hit it on the tube, if it's a short tube or a long tube. So it sounded deeper and further away. It didn't sound like it was in the basement toilet. And I happened to be in the basement, and I noticed that it wasn't actually the toilet gurgling. I could hear the kind of noise, and so I thought maybe it was in between the street and the house was where it got stuck once it got pushed down. But the other thought that I had was I have a drain on the floor in the laundry room. So my thought was that the toilet is higher than the laundry room, which is about 6 feet away. The toilet back is about 6 feet away from the drain in the opposite room. So back to back room. So like my toilet is here, and there's a wall, and then where the vent would go in, and then there's a drain like here in the laundry room. And so what I think happened was, so I'm downstairs this week, and I am in the laundry room. I throw a load of laundry in. Now, in the entire 20-something years I've lived here, I've never had a smell in my laundry room. I've never smelled any kind of sewage smell or any kind of stinky at all. But that may have been like, that was the first time I was down in that room doing a load of laundry since that sponge fell further down into the vent. Now, I did do a load of laundry after that. I've probably done 2 loads maybe since that event. I mean, I live alone. I don't do a ton of laundry. When I was down there, I was cleaning out, I was cleaning out the dryer vent. That's what I was doing. So I stuck a load of laundry in, and I pulled the dryer out, and I was putting the hose in the cleaning tool in the dryer vent, which I do before it gets snowy and cold, because I don't want to have to be outside in the snow, which I've had to do before, cleaning that dryer vent out when the dryer says check vent or something. So there was kind of a little rattle in the back of the dryer. I dropped a container of empty bleach container back there, and it kind of started rattling. So anyway, that's not here nor there, but I pulled out the dryer. So I was down in the laundry room while the washer was running, was cleaning the vent out, put the dryer back, and I could smell rotten eggs in the room. And I've never smelled that in my house ever before. Nothing stinky like that ever. So I kind of went down to the floor vent to see if it was coming out of the floor vent, and it was not coming out of the floor vent. It was coming out of the dryer hose that goes in to let the water come out of the dryer. So into the wall, there's a little hole, and you have the little tube that lets your washer drain. And it was very strongly coming out of there. And that I've never, in the whole time I've ever lived here, had anything like that. And that's 20 something years. So I thought, okay, now I think that maybe the sponge got down into that P-trap for the washing machine, and that's why it sounded like it was further down in the tube versus when I first saw it, it was between the sponge was stuck between the upper and lower floors of my home. And then after that, we looked all the way down to the basement floor, and I couldn't see the sponge at all. So I think it got stuck on its way out of the washing vent. Must be the lowest P-trap vent for the sewage line. So I contacted the person who told me about the methane gas in the first place escaping into the house. And I said, could the sponge be blocking that P-trap or somehow blocking the vent? Now, I've never had any flooding with the sponge in there, and obviously the sponge would let water drain, and especially if it's not blocking the whole tube once we got it down in there. But it was enough that it was causing some kind of blockage for the vent system. So I asked what he would do if it was his house, because I still was hearing that noise, but it sounded deeper. And without hiring somebody with a camera to, I'm tight right now with money. We've got house taxes and insurance on the home and insurance on the cars. I'll do at the same time. It's like $5,000 all at the same time. So I'm trying to save money, but it is a health hazard. So I'm trying to figure out how to handle it all. So he suggested that I buy a really strong drain cleaner. Now, I had run liquid plumber down the drain, the floor drain recently, as well as the shower drain down there, because I have girls with long hair, and every once in a while, hair would get stuck in there and I couldn't get it all out. And so I would just run liquid plumber regularly down the bathtub anyway down there, the shower down there. But I just wanted to get rid of a bottle of Drano that I had. And so I ran it down those two within the last couple of months. But I have never run any drain cleaner type of thing into the drain for the washing machine. It's never smelled. I've never had a problem with that. So he suggested, there's several different kinds you can buy, but he suggested this liquid fire, and they sell them actually in plastic because they're so caustic and they will burn your skin if you get it on your skin. He reiterated many, many times that it can explode out of the drain, and you have to be very, very careful that it will burn you, and wear gloves and long sleeves and eye protection and everything when you're using this chemical. And there's probably, I don't know, there was quite a few different sizes and bottles and different companies, but the one he suggested, because it was the cheapest, was the liquid fire, and it comes in a bigger bottle than that, but I figured since I was going down the washing machine drain, I wouldn't want to pour a ton down there. So I poured, I had to get a funnel because it was kind of flush in the wall. And so I got a little funnel with a kind of a bigger nozzle, and I poured half of the bottle. And now, of course, I was wearing protective gear because I didn't want to get burned. And if you read all the instructions, it very clearly says it can explode if it gets in with water, and, never put water in the bottle with the chemical and all that. So read the instructions if you're going to do this. But so I poured it in with a funnel, and I let it sit for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and the rotten egg smell got worse before it got better. But he did say that if the sponge was down in that area, that it would melt the sponge, that the chemical was strong enough that it would melt the sponge. So it smelled for a little while, and then it stopped smelling, and I poured water down it. because you need to rinse it after you've let it run. And since that time, it's been a couple days. I think I did that on Thursday. Yes, I did it on Thursday. And when I first did it, for a minute, I heard some like gurgling kind of thing for a minute. And then after that, I didn't hear anything, but I also took a bath down there in our whirlpool tub. So that's a lot of water. Plus I ran another load of laundry right after that. Plus I showered upstairs. I shower in the smaller shower after I take a bath. And so there was a lot of water running through that, if that's the lowest drain point, which I'm guessing it is, to the sewer vent. And so since that time, I haven't heard any gurgling or blurbing that I used to hear like quite a bit. But also, just to be safe, I didn't want this bottle hanging around. It's a chemical, and I just figured I would run it through my shower, which is the highest, biggest drain in the house. And so I ran the rest of the bottle. So I probably did 2/3 of the bottle in the washing machine drain, and then I did a third in my shower drain. And I have to say that when I did my drain, I also did smell rotten eggs for a minute, and I've never in all the years I've lived here smelled that in my shower either. So I'm hoping that by running it through those two things, I was able to melt the sponge and get it out of the line. I also have to say that I woke up earlier and more wide awake after I did that. And the house is pretty sealed up. It's been cold, and so I took out my swamp cooler and vent. But I have been running my bathroom vents a little bit more frequently because I've taken out the other vent and the windows can't be open. So I might just be a little bit more aware of it, but I have not been hearing the gurgling sound, which was absolutely not something that I heard before this block in my sewer vent. So I'm thinking that's an indicator that maybe the line is now open. So I wanted to do this update video about this because if you're having a problem, it can't hurt to use this. Don't use this in the toilets though, because it can explode the toilet porcelain if you so just be aware of that. I also found another symptom which I didn't realize when I was getting ready to post the first video, I looked up the symptoms on a different page just to make sure I posted them all in the search engine for YouTube on my video. And so one of the symptoms on this page that I didn't see on the other pages was clumsiness. And I cannot tell you, I am a very coordinated person normally. I was all-star softball team. I'm very quick, catch things, whatever. And the only time I was clumsy was when I was pregnant. And I would know I was pregnant. I literally knew I was pregnant with my last child because at work I dropped something 3 times. And I thought, oh my gosh, I think I'm pregnant, because I'm very coordinated most of the time. So in the last couple of years, I'm dropping stuff all the time. Even like a week or 2 ago, I dropped the same thing 3 times. I was so frustrated. I'm like, well, I know I'm not pregnant, but this is awful. I'm just so not coordinated, and I didn't know why. So I thought that was interesting that that's one of the symptoms, is because you're not getting as much oxygen as you need when you're breathing in the gas. And so it causes clumsiness as one of the symptoms. And I thought, oh, that totally explains my life and feeling crappy and all of the symptoms that I've had. Well, not all of them. I mean, a lot of the symptoms that I've had for the last few years they're all explained away, a lot of them, by this situation with the methane gas. So anyway, I'm hoping that I took care of it. So in between there, I also had I called the health department and left a message. They didn't call me back, which I was here nor there, because I asked if they had a way to test methane gas. And then I called the city and gave a message for the sewer department, and they also did not call me back. So I guess they didn't have a way to test for methane either. And both people that answered told me they didn't think they had them, but I left a message for the person who would be in charge of that situation, but neither of them called me back, which is sad, but it happens. So I called the propane company in our area and asked if they had a test. I knew that they would have a test, like some way to test if the propane was leaking, but they said they did not have a methane tester, but they suggested the fire department. And I hadn't thought of the fire department, so I contacted the fire department and asked them if they had a methane tester. And he said they had just gotten a new tester, but he didn't think it did methane, but he asked if I would like them to come out and double check and make sure it was no other gas that was explosive. And I said, sure, that would be great. So 2 wonderful fire department workers came to my home and the next day, and they ran their newest little gas tester, and it did 4 different types of gases. So it did oxygen, because oxygen can be explosive in the situation of somebody is on oxygen and it's combustible in concentrated form. So it tested for oxygen and natural gas and propane and one other type, but it did not test for methane. So I just had them run through, because I thought, maybe I have a natural gas leak and whatever. So they came and they walked through the home and tested and it also tests carbon monoxide, even though not so. So they walked around, tested close to everything to see if they could get any readings, and they didn't get any readings. And so that made me feel better. At least I knew it wasn't natural gas and I already have a couple carbon monoxide poison. You guys know, if you watch my channel or read my blog, that I'm very big on having smoke detectors, fire detectors, and carbon monoxide detectors in the house. Just I try to be as safe as possible that way, and having extinguishers. I have a great video and or blog posts about that, and so check those out. Because you should shake your fire extinguishers regularly to make sure that the powder isn't crusted and caked in the bottom. So check that video out, or my blog, thesecretisgratitude.com, and type in fire extinguishers in the search box at the bottom of the homepage to see the videos and posts about that, because that is a good information as well. But so I'm pretty cautious about that, and I really would like to have proven that I had this methane problem. I mean, I know what it came from and I know what caused it. And we have since pulled that drain out of the attic and drilled it through in the walls and then down into the drain in the my laundry room with the water softener drainer, so that I can keep tabs on that pump for my furnace and not have the problem of it freezing every winter that I've had. It's been a nightmare. That furnace situation has been a nightmare from the very beginning. It's been a problem. So I have a dear friend that I have to thank for that helped me run that line, and now I've got to do some kind of cosmetic case at the top to cover that. So and I think I took a video of that. I don't think I've uploaded that yet, but anyway, so taking care of that problem with the methane vent, the sewer vent being blocked. So that makes me feel really good about that. And like I said, I'm pretty sure now I've taken care of the sponge that was blocking the vent since the furnace has been in there pretty much causing all these health problems. So I did research online that you can purchase a methane gas detector, which looks similar to a carbon monoxide detector, but they're not cheap. They're more expensive than any of those other detectors. And so I wanted to try this last method. Like I said, I'm tight for funds right now, so I tried this last method before actually buying a detector, because they're quite expensive, and I don't know when else I would have needed it. I didn't have a problem before they put the furnace in. So anyway, wanted to go through the symptoms one more time and tell you there are detectors. So if you're having these symptoms, try the local fire department. The local, they did say that they thought maybe the civil defense or emergency disaster people may have a methane gas detector, and if I wanted to try and contact them and nail it down. But by the time they got back to me, and I had already looked into doing this. So if for some reason I hear the gurgling, I still have the symptoms, I will buy a detector, and I will also probably hire a plumber to run a video camera down my sewer vent to make sure that it's clear all the way out to the street. They did say that sometimes root systems of trees can get into that vent and block it. And I did have somebody come and look at, there's a little bit of a sinkhole near one of my fruit trees, but they think it's more of a sprinkler line issue because it's not a huge hole. And they said that the sewer vent is at least 10 feet deep. So it's only wet after the sprinklers have been running. And so I don't think it's a constant thing. So I'm pretty confident that is not the problem. I don't have a lot of trees on that side of the house, and none of them are like 10 feet deep root systems, I'm sure. So I think that the problem was the sponge. I mean, I saw it. I know they put it up there. Even on the report of install, they commented that they put some thermal stuff, padding in the sewer vent. They actually wrote that on the install form when they came back with the freezing problem. And so I'm sure that was the problem all along with my methane poisoning, but it sure explains a lot about my health the last 5 or 6 years. So once again, the symptoms are dizziness, nausea, vomiting, clumsy, dehydrated, dry skin. Headaches is one of the first one. A lot of the time I've had a lot of heart palpitations. I mean, when the house is closed off, I have heart palpitations a lot especially when I'm resting. But my bedroom was right above the laundry room, where that washing vent would drain, and I have a laundry chute. So I'm guessing if the gas was enclosed in the house, eventually it would build up in that area in my bedroom anyway. So headaches, heart palpitations, confusion, brain fog, forgetful, all of those are symptoms of methane gas poisoning. And the interesting thing is they're not all the same, like for natural gas or propane or radon or those kind of things. They're all different symptoms. And so I was looking up symptoms for radon or the other things because I was like, there's got to be a problem here. And but they're very different. And so specifically for methane, these were the symptoms that of methane, and they're exactly what I've had. And it was kind of interesting. One day, like a week, 2 weeks ago, there was a fly walking around the living room floor, and I was literally able to play with the fly. I could poke it and it would move. And I thought, flies don't just like die on the carpet. Usually they're in a window or something, and it was just really sluggish. And so I thought, okay, this gas is still in the house because I'm still hearing gurgling and then having this fly crawl around. So anyway, hopefully you do not have this problem if you're watching this video, but if you're watching the video, I'm guessing you may have a problem. But just know I will have a blog about this, and probably two, detailing the situation and pictures, and just know that there are detectors out there, and they actually, one thing I thought was really interesting is the methane can get in your soil, and kids can actually eat the soil and get methane poisoning from eating the soil. So if you're going to have a mulch pit, or if you're on a farm and you have, or if you have a septic tank, make sure they're not venting near your house, because it can actually get in the ground and in the soil. So that was something that I had never needed to know. I've never lived in a place where there's a septic tank. So, and also I have a mulch pit, but it's in the far corner of my yard, but I never would have thought twice about having it near the house, other than the smell, but I wouldn't have thought that it would release methane gas. So that was kind of an interesting thought that I never knew about, so you learn something every day. So, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and hopefully you're not having a problem with this. And check out my blog, thesecretisgratitude.com, and type in methane gas in the search box at the bottom of the homepage. Feel free to ask questions there as well, and I hope you have a very blessed day.